It's the beard and the hair, yeah. It's almost January 1st, a couple days away, 2024. And I started this on November 11th, about a month and a half ago, my birthday, Veterans Day. I feel like I'm going on a journey. I think I shared this with you on one of the last programs. I do this every so often. If there's something that I need to figure out, the next move. You know, for me, I just turned 65, and I have 29 years on the job. So next year I'll be in my 30s. So the journey is to determine the next phase. You know, I left corporate America in 1994 after 13 years, NCR Corporation, and 5 months later I was a mailman. In 1994. I didn't think I was going to be able to handle it. Actually, it was tough, man. I leave a cubicle wearing a three-piece suit to go out there carrying a 60-pound bag on my back, walking for 6 hours a day, and it was hot. You know, I mean, I didn't think I was going to make it. I didn't think I could do it. But then I go home and I looked at my 4-year-old son, Martin Jr., and I began to envision him with a swollen belly and flies around his eyes. I figured, I'm just kidding. I figured I got to do this thing. I think a lot of times, you know, a lot of our kids don't realize the sacrifices that we've made, you know, to keep them alive, right? And so, man, that was like 29 years ago, over 29 years ago. 34 then, man, jeez. And so in the meantime, in the meantime, while I've been a mailman, I accomplished a couple of things. Of course, as many of you know, I was an elder in a church, and I was a pastor for like 20 plus years. But as well, from an educational perspective, when I became a mailman, you know, I had a high school diploma, and I earned my associate degree, I earned my bachelor's degree, and I earned my MBA. So I did all that while I was at the post office carrying mail. Also got my scuba certification, written like 8 books. You know, but the point of all that is that I'm getting ready to make another transition, and I just don't know what it is yet. So I've gone on a journey. You know, as some of you know, I've practiced the martial art for many years, from the time I was about 15 or so. And when you think about the old Chinese monk, you know, from back in the day, and they have to figure out something, they go on a journey into the jungle or something, you know, for months at a time. Well, you know, I don't have the luxury to do that. And so this is like symbolism to me, is growing this beard. So I've decided on April 15th, I'm going to cut this beard and cut my hair, because I'm going to be looking like Frederick Douglass, I'm sure. And I'm going to have the direction. I'm going to know what I need to do. You know, some of the considerations, I don't want to do something for the county. Maybe I did a lot of volunteer work, 17 years of volunteer work. If I can package, you know, what I was doing then and present it, you know, as a paid contract, maybe. Or my wife suggested I try to, you know, get a teaching job at Central State University. I could be an advocate for black people, but that doesn't pay very much at all, probably. I don't know what I'm going to do, but that's what this journey is all about. By April 15th, I'm going to know what the next phase of my life is going to be. This is the journey. And so we're going to talk today. You know, of course, this is Listen, my urban commentary. I'm talking to black folks primarily, so that's where we're going to get with it. I just wanted to share with you where I'm at right now. Place in my life where I'm at. I've been on the air now for 19 years. Amazing, huh? Just about 19 years. I'm about 5 months shy of 19 years of being on the air on this program. And I have another program, a spiritual program called Another Perspective as well. Some of you may have caught me there. So we're going to talk to black people today, because there's some stuff going on in this nation that we just need to be aware of. I know just a couple days ago, just to date this program, we had Nikki Haley, one of the presidential hopefuls, at a town hall meeting, ask what the Civil War was all about, and she failed to realize that it was about slavery. Now, come on now. Now we realize that, as it turns out, she's like Indian, like very Indian. I mean, India from India. And her father was a professor for 20 years at an HBCU. Now, you're going to tell me she didn't know what slavery, that's the relationship between slavery and the Civil War. And it was very interesting about what she was doing. I think then Chris Christie got on the air and he was explaining that, she's not racist. She was just catering. She just didn't want to offend anybody. I'm like, really, Chris? Anybody? What about black people? I guess black people aren't anybody. Now, she didn't want to offend her base. She didn't want to offend those voters. And then he went on to say, because if they had asked me what the Civil War was about, I would say he was doing the same thing. He was just trying to cater. He had figured she messed up, so he was trying to capitalize on her faux pas, okay? And then the next day, I think she came out talking about how that she knew it was about slavery, but it was about the rights of all people. And oh, come on, really? Really? Come on. So, I mean, it's getting ridiculous. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's a lot of mess going on in this nation today, in the political realm. It's like our nation is crumbling from within, okay? And when you look at it, when you look at for the past couple of elections, it was Hillary versus Trump, and then there's Biden versus Trump, and it looks like it might be, if Trump's allowed on ballots this coming election, it will be Biden versus Trump again, okay? But the point is, this isn't about black folks. Okay, none of this is. Okay, Hillary and Obama was about black folks. And we came out and we put that brother in office. But Hillary and Trump weren't about black folks. And Trump versus Biden, but these are just white folks that want to be in charge. And they got white folks on each side fighting each other, which one of their champions is going to hold that crown. Even to the point where this last election, one of the sides was so mad there was like an insurrection, denying the election results and trying to take control over, after losing, sort of like one of those, dictators in some of those other little countries, banana republics or whatever, But this country is a mess right now. And if you look at the politicians, I mean, they're fighting each other, even within each other's parties. Okay, within their own parties, they're fighting each other. It's a mess. And so what I want to tell black folks is that you need to see what's going on here and recognize that's not about you. So what does that mean? Grab your popcorn, kick your feet up, and just watch the show? I have to admit, sometimes it is a little bit better than Netflix. I was thinking about canceling my Netflix subscription until the election, but I'm just kidding. The point is, no, we should be doing something. And I used to practice the martial art. Back in the days, I used to go to tournaments like every month. Not mixed martial art, not this stuff, but regular, tournaments. And when you're in a fight and you see a weakness that your opponent has or a weakness that you have brought on, you capitalize on that weakness. You don't just sit back and watch it. No, you go out, you capitalize on that weakness, okay? That's what I'm saying. As black people in America, we need to recognize that this situation that our nation is experiencing right now is a crumbling from within. It's a weakness. So take advantage of that weakness and get yourself together. Do something. Man, when Obama became, when I shared with you how I have my associate degree, my bachelor's degree, and my MBA, right? Well, that just happened within a 10-year period, right when Obama became president. My birthday was on November 11th. The year when he became president, 2008, and I was 50 years old, and it was announced that night that Obama had won. Man, that was my Christmas present. But I was thinking to myself that night that there must be something magic in the air. Because of all these years, who would have ever believed that a black man would have ever been president in the United States, And no one. We even called Bill Clinton the first black president. How pathetic was that? Because we believed so impossible that a real black man would ever be president. But I figured, man, there must be something magic in the air. So I decided that I was going to do something that was unbelievable. And so I decided to go back to school, or go to school. Because I had a high school diploma, I was going to go to school, go to Sinclair College, the local community college, and just get an associate degree. And then I could just feel like I did something, feel an accomplishment. It was very interesting, and I went there to get that degree. Of course, I had to see a counselor, an advisor, and she told me I was going to just get a liberal arts degree, because I just wanted a degree. I wasn't trying to use it. I had been with the post office at that time for 15 years. And she told me that I should go on a parallel program. And what a parallel program is, if I just went to the community college and got my 2-year degree, and then I decided to go on and further my education at a 4-year institution, that 4-year institution wouldn't take all of the courses that I took at the community college. But if I took a battery of courses that a particular university suggested I take, for that associate degree, that they would guarantee to take all of the credits if I decided to go on and get my 4-year degree. But like, I didn't want to get a 4-year degree. All I wanted was a 2-year degree. I tried to tell her that. She kept arguing with me. And finally I just gave in, simply because she was so passionate about her argument. And man, you know what? So I went on a parallel course. I think it was a Wright State parallel course, or a UD parallel course. And man, you know what? That was one of the best moves I think I ever made in my life. Because after I ended up getting that 2-year degree, the associate degree, I did want to continue my education. And after I got my bachelor's degree, I did want to continue my education. After I got my MBA, I was done. I was burned out. Sleep cycle all jacked up. I was kind of messed up. But anyway, oh man, it was wonderful. Because what happened was, it's the worldview that changes. That's the power of an education. Is that your worldview, the more you learn, your worldview begins to expand, okay? And so although I was a high school graduate when I started at Sinclair College, by the time I was done, I had an associate degree, my worldview had expanded. And so although I had an associate degree when I started my studies for my bachelor's degree, by the time the bachelor's degree was over, I had a 4-year worldview expansion. And although I had that when I started my MBA, by the time the MBA was over, I had an MBA worldview expansion, okay? And so I grew in the midst of all that. As well, I wanted to start speaking a different language, so I picked Arabic, Egyptian Arabic, and began studying the Arabic language, which I'm still studying today, as well as the Spanish language. So the point is, I saw something. I don't know if it was a weakness. It looked like a weakness to the nation, because white folks sure were going crazy when Obama became president. I think that's when the Tea Party started, right? So there was something going on there, and I decided to take advantage of that moment, okay? And it paid off tremendously. It paid off tremendously for me. And so what I'm suggesting is, at this particular point now, we're going through another turmoil, another thing, okay, of this nation, imploding, fighting itself, but not about black people, simply about white people. That was the insurrection. It wasn't about us. Man, if it was a bunch of black folks that had stormed that Capitol, there would have been thousands of dead black people on those Capitol steps. This wasn't about us. or if those folks had stormed, a meeting of the Black Caucus, they wouldn't be going to prison right now. Come on, this ain't about us. So recognize something else is going on and take care of your business. This is no time for R&R. Man, this is no time for weed. This is no time for alcohol. This is no time for, it's Friday night, I'm going out. No, this is the time to take care of your business. Get yourself together, man. Because this cloud is going to lift. Now, believe it or not, I gave this same speech back when I started going to school at Sinclair when Obama became president, because I was trying to take as many of us as I could with me. I didn't know I was going to end up with an MBA, but I did know I was going to end up with an associate degree. And I was sharing this. And what I was sharing was, eventually this is going to be over. This moment is going to be over. That's why black people do something then, when something magic was in the air, when Obama just became president. Don't just party, don't just have a good time. Change your lifestyle. Do something different. And then, lo and behold, it changed. Obama was no longer president. Next thing we had this other guy. It was a whole new thing. But all I'm sharing now is, this is one of those times. This is one of those times, man. All throughout our lives in this nation has always been about black people. Not for the positive. This nation was built on the backs of black people since this nation's inception, prior to the nation's inception. 1620s, I believe, black people been in this nation. We built this nation on our backs, but it has never been about us for our good. It's been about us for our detriment, okay? And what I'm suggesting is, this moment is your moment, your opportunity to change that thing. So I'm saying, look at your life. No matter what you are, no matter what you've done, no matter how successful, man. When I was a high school graduate working for the post office, my wife and I were working, we were making good money. I could have just said, oh well, I'm fine. No, find something different to do. Change the trajectory of your life, man. Because when you change the trajectory of your life, you change the trajectory of the lives of your children. Look, when Obama became president, and I started at Sinclair, my daughter was 3 years old. Not really cognizant of whatever, and she always hanging out with daddy's little girl. And so I was studying a lot throughout, so 10 years, I continuously, I went to college. I dropped one algebra class toward the end of my associate degree, but then the next quarter I picked another one up. But for 10 years, I was out of school for like half a quarter. So from age 3 to age 13, that's all she saw was daddy in school, working, studying so hard, so diligently. So what do you think that impression was imparted into her as far as the value of education? Very strong. She's at an HBC right now in another state. She's planning on being an attorney. That's where she's at right now. So I'm just saying there is an effect. So you make a change. Don't just go for the status quo. Just don't stay where you're at. Find somewhere to improve yourself. Especially now, while this stuff is going on. And what I'm suggesting is, we at this particular point, we need to put down the weed, put down the alcohol. We need to start eating healthy. We need to start exercising. We need to get educated. And we need to get armed. Do those things. And you'll take yourself right out of the hand of racism. So because you won't be in place. Don't break any laws either, okay? Don't be driving around with a warrant. Don't break any laws. Come on, man. You clean up your act just in this time while the nation is crumbling. You're getting yourself together. You be clean and sober. Get yourself together. Man, when the dust settles and the fog lifts, man, you're gonna be new and improved. And were you at a disadvantage before all this stuff started, you're gonna be at a definite advantage, for real. Now, as I mentioned as we open the program, you see my facial hair, my hair, and the direction I'm going. Well, one thing that I'm beginning to remember is the social impact of the Afro. See, I was a young man. I was a high school student in the 70s. I graduated in 1976, and I joined the military in 1976, so I was a military man in the 70s as well. And the Afro was a social statement, okay? And there was power in the black community. There was power in my black high school, Stebbins High School, and we were a minority there. But we never had to take any flack, any negativity from anyone because they were afraid to do so. I remember I was at my, as I practiced the martial art, many of us did, a lot of football players, baseball players, basketball players, we were all strong, track, we were all strong, black folks. And I remember I was at I think it was my 5-year reunion. And I went up to the bar, and one of the ex-varsity high school football players was at the bar, and he said, he said, if your friend, wasn't there, another guy that was in the karate club, I'd fight you. And I'm like, so what's your point? Because there was a solidarity among black people. So it didn't matter what you were, how strong you were, how weak you were, somebody had your back that was black simply because you were black. It was like that in my time, in the 70s, in the mid-70s especially. And something happened in the 80s. I mean, in that time frame, there was a transition that the Afro went from a social statement, from a social statement to a fashion statement. Okay, and so it was no longer the power behind the fro, because the Afro, Africa. Okay, so what they ended up calling it, the fro. So they took the Africa off of it and just called it a fro. No more Afro, Africa, fro. Pan-Africanism. That was the uniqueness that we had. Another name for the Afro back in those days was the natural. It was the natural because it was natural, you know. Black folks weren't trying to straighten their hair. They weren't trying to do other things with it. We embraced the natural. It doesn't matter if it was bigger, if it was small, short, coarse hair, fine hair. It didn't matter what it was. It was the natural. It was what came natural to you, and that was beautiful, man. And that was a social statement. But it began to transition. White folks started getting their hairs permed, growing their fros, and black people even started calling them fros, dropped the Africa part. Man, I even know that from like of course I was out of the school at 76 and I was in the military, but I understand that even like in the early 80s, you know, the white folks were so close to blacks, they can call them the N-word, their friends, and be laughing about it. It had changed. So when I start talking about the afro, and somebody said, "Well, I had a fro," you know, and that doesn't. Yours was a fashion statement. It's not the fact that you just had an afro. What did it mean to you, and what did it mean to the people around you? Man, in shop class, me and a couple of my buddies, we'd make these fists, you know, wooden fists. We'd first draw the fist on there and then carve it out and bevel it out and then highlight it, you know, with a pen or something like that. And we'd make, so this is wood, dark wood, we'd stain it. And then we'd make the arm, the wrist about this long, and we'd put it in our back pocket facing outward. So wherever we went, that was the fist that everybody was seeing. Nobody said a word. It was a social statement. So just wearing an afro, wearing a fro, eventually, that means nothing if it was simply your fashion. It meant everything if it was your statement, okay? To be black and to be proud and to be strong is what it meant. So what I'm doing here now, I'm finding myself, and it wasn't even my intention, is that I'm feeling that again. Man, as I'm growing, you know, I do have white in here now, and of course it wasn't that before, but I'm feeling the blackness. I'm feeling the natural. I'm feeling it, and it feels good. You know what to get? Since my hair's getting a little longer, I got one of the picks, you know, the pick with the little black fist on it. I can't find the one back in the day, you know, but I found one that is cool enough, and now, you know, when I'm out and about, like at work or whatever, I keep it in my top shirt pocket so that black fist is sticking out, you know, just reminding me, because we have lost something as black people in this nation. Now these other folks are walking around with their little blue flags, you know, of course symbolizes Blue Lives Matter after they choked out George Floyd and some of those other brothers and shot the sisters and brothers and all that. And they don't mind wearing, you know, those red hats, you know, MAGA hats and all that stuff. So I'm saying, you know, and we just sit back and we just look at them. We have lost the boldness. We've lost the power. And so I'm trying to bring it back. If not me, who? If not now, when? You know, all that and all. And I'm feeling good about it, because we are some strong people, but we have acquiesced to all the, oh, look what he said. Oh, he said the N-word. Look how they're treating us, and they're not treating us right. All this crying and belly aching we've been doing, we weren't doing that before. Not at all. We handled our own business, because you begin to shut them up, then they want you to shut up, and so you can't say much. So I'm just suggesting that we need to regain our black pride, and not in secret. Not in secret. And you know, right now I feel like I'm the only one. But you know what? I don't care. In my day growing up, I was a military kid, and so we moved around a lot. I was born in Los Angeles. We lived in Europe for 5 years. We lived in Kansas. We lived in Maine. We came to Ohio from Maine. Okay, and we would move after the school years had already started. So it was all the friends had been made. So, but I spent a lot of alone time. I don't mind being alone, especially when it's for a particular purpose and a good point. And so we need to regain our blackness. We need to regain our black pride. We need to recognize the power that is in us, okay? We were coming to a place of noticeable power, in the 70s, in the 60s. I guess started with Martin Luther King Jr., but because he had all those folks, Stokely Carmichael, Malcolm X, and all those other rough brothers around. And then the Panthers came on board around the early 70s and all. But so there was a momentum of black people that were going in a positive direction. But then the fashion came in, and then the drugs came in, and we just got caught up. We got distracted to the point where we had no more power. We had no more venom, nothing within us, that could take us anywhere. And I don't know, it's like we need to revive that. I have an interesting theory about the evolution of the black man's psyche, and why it's sometimes seems so difficult for us to stay on task and to accomplish anything as a people, okay? And then often we sit back and we blame others, we blame immigrants, we blame other people that have come here and all, but really it's us. And I'm thinking that it's about the evolution. Now, evolution is a very interesting word because I was raised in the church, right? And I'm thinking evolution can't be true. It was always difficult for me to believe that you could have this short-necked giraffe, right? And over the course of 100 years trying to get to the berries or whatever, or the leaves high up in the tree, eventually the neck started growing. Come on, and that's evolution. I find that very hard to believe and still do, But that's not evolution. I took an anthropology course at Sinclair College years ago, and the instructor was a professor from UD who was moonlighting at Sinclair on his part-time. Really cool guy. Long-haired white guy, earrings, tattoos, drove a motorcycle, had done anthropological digs in other countries and all. Very knowledgeable person, very good guy and everything. And he explained evolution to us in a very insightful way that I bought it, okay? What he said was, you take about 1 million cockroaches, okay? And you spray them with a spray to kill them. You're going to kill just about all those cockroaches except for maybe 20,000 of them. Those 20,000 that didn't die, they didn't die because they were mutants. They had something wrong with them. They weren't normal cockroaches, maybe deformity, whatever you want to call it. There was something wrong with them. They were not normal. And that the part of them that was, and there were probably many cockroaches, and the more you get, the more of a population you get, the more deformities, the more mutants, the more things you have that aren't quite normal, okay? And so then when they were sprayed, the spray was created to kill cockroaches. But as it turned out, 20,000 of those cockroaches were mutated in such a way that spray didn't harm them, okay? So they lived. And all of the other cockroaches died. And if you know anything about cockroaches, you can't hardly kill all of them. And this is the reason why. And so 20,000 are left because they weren't subject to that spray. So they were the minority cockroaches who had these mutations. But after all the normal ones were killed, they became the majority. As they begin to reproduce, they reproduce hundreds of thousands, of little baby cockroaches, and say 40,000 of those cockroaches were mutated. So these were once the mutations, they became the normal ones. Now they had their babies, and from their babies there were mutations that weren't like these. And when the guy came in and sprayed, all of them were killed, except these mutated ones. And these mutated ones now became the normal ones, and they had babies. And this goes on for generations and generations, okay? So they'll tell you now that the cockroaches have been on this planet for millions of years. But they're not the same cockroaches. They're evolved cockroaches because of the mutations. The mutated cockroaches became the normal, and then their mutation became the normal, their mutation became the normal, and that is what evolution is, okay? It's from a mutation, and then the mutation becoming the norm, okay? So now I want to take that to people. This was a long way around. What I see as the Africans were taken, were captured, and were brought to this country, over that long trip. First of all, there were Africans that were fighting tooth and nail, fighting even before they even left Africa and were killed and murdered on the shores of Africa. And then even throughout the passage, I'm sure that we had those that fought, those that were just not going to cooperate, and they were killed too. So as many black folks that had died on the trip from the capture and the trip to the Americas and all, you had undocumented numbers of Africans that were killed all along the way because they would not submit themselves, and even those who actually killed themselves rather than to be slaves. Okay, and as well, after the slaves got here, there were many slave revolts. We just don't hear about them. We just hear about the few, but there were many revolts. Simply human nature, individuals trying to escape, and they were weeded out, eventually killed. And so what I'm suggesting then is the same way we were talking about the evolution with those insects, is that in time, generation after generation, those warrior Africans, those Africans that were dead set on escaping, on fighting their way out and not accepting capitulation to slavery, were killed off. And those that were left were the more docile Africans, those that chose not to fight back, maybe out of wisdom or maybe out just preservation or whatever. Those were not the warriors. The warriors were killed. The warriors were eliminated. And what you had left were the more docile Africans, and then they had kids. And in generations, and those kids, their kids had kids, and their had kids. So we have today then a remnant simply of the docile Africans who did not die trying to escape, trying to fight. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, we even in genetics, you're going to find mutations. So you're going to find that warrior gene. Okay, of course, it's not a warrior gene, but you're going to find that trait popping up here and there all throughout the following generations. But as far as just the masses or the regular ones being those warriors, that's just not the case. And this is what we are a result of today. This is why we're not going out carrying out 200 or 300 year vendettas over folks that had done our ancestors wrong, because we're just not those kind of people. Okay, and that's not a bad thing. Because I guess if everybody was like that, there might not be any of us here today, right? But I'm just suggesting then we realize we have the ability to exceed. We have the ability to excel, to do well, okay? And because we had some tremendous, powerful warriors, but the weapons that were used against them were just too strong. Don't ever get it twisted that the Africans were uncivilized, okay? And the Europeans were civilized. It was exactly the opposite. I mean, you're talking about mathematics, you're talking about medicine, you're talking about the pyramids, you're talking about the Sphinx, you're talking about things that were created and understood in Africa. See what you had in Europe, you just had people in Europe that had strong weapons, okay? They weren't more civilized. They weren't more sanitary, they weren't more civilized, they simply were brutal and had weapons. And when a brutal man with weapons attacks a more civilized man, the more civilized man is going to lose, okay? And so that's what you have. I mean, let me tell you what, the Africans were we can't even figure today how people of that time created those pyramids, even to the point where there must have been aliens. Couldn't have been them. Yeah, that's the conclusion. Now, we were that civilized, okay? And so we recognize, man, that potential is within us. I mean, consider what we do. No matter what we as black folks put our hand to, when we decide to put our hand to do it, we're always successful. Whether it's in music, whether it's in sports, whether it's in battle, whether it's in politics, you know what I'm saying? Whatever we put, whether it's in business, whether it's in, the business, the music industry is a business now, but whatever it's in, we have the ability, even if it's ill-gotten booty, ill-gotten money, even if it's criminal activities, we can do this thing. So I'm suggesting is if we just get our focus right, get it in the right direction, especially in this time of chaos within our nation, when it's all said and done, we'll be on top. But it's going to be up to us. Man, we may not be the reasons why we got here. We're the only ones that are going to get us out, and it is doable. But we've got to drop the weed. We've got to drop the drugs. We've got to drop the alcohol. We've got to stop doing any kind of crime. We got to get in shape. We got to get healthy. We got to eat right. You can't be a one-legged diabetic warrior. Don't commit any kind of crimes. Get educated and get armed. And you'll be just fine. But anyway, I think I've talked to you here long enough. I do appreciate you joining me for listening. And I do invite you to listen again. You take care. Bye.